Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Julie Gunlock's here. That's all you need to know about.
And my facial expressions.
It's 7. Yeah, you have a rubber face. Have people told you that before?
Rubber face.
Yes, you can just change it into any expression. I want to play poker with you because I can always tell when you are bluffing. Coming up at 7:35, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin is here. Okay, so Julie Gunlock is here and Glenn Youngkin's here. That's all you need to know. Plus, at 8:05, we're going to interview the author of the book Manhunt that's now been turned into a series on Apple TV. It's about the hunt for John Wilkes Booth after the assassination. It's a compelling story. James Swanson is that author. Also at 8:35, Mark Morgan, former assistant FBI director and former acting commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's all you need to know. Okay, there's a lot of things that people need to know.
That's right.
Joining us right now is JON MYERS. That's all you need to know. He's running for the Republican nomination of the 7th District of Virginia. It's a crowded field, but that primary is coming up. In fact, early voting starts in like a month. JON MYERS, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I wish I could see Julie's rubber face.
Oh, man.
But I cannot.
It's like, I'll be in the middle of saying something, and it's like, what? Why are you giving me that look?
I don't mean it.
It's whatever she thinks, it immediately comes out.
Well,
on
I have
her
a big
face.
smile on my face for talking that we get to talk to you today.
Well, yes,
so
because 7th. Listen, it's like the entire armed forces is represented in the Republican primary here. We've got an Army dude, we got a Navy SEAL, and now we got a Marine Corps officer. JON MYERS was an officer for 28 years, and while you're running in the neighborhood of Quantico, so I'm thinking you got a lot of other leathernecks down there who might be hearing your words.
Yeah, and I'm banking on that somewhat home field advantage. As a resident of Stafford, this is a very, very heavy Marine Corps area, and Prince William as well. And my wife works on the Quantico Marine Base, and of course we've been attached in and out of Quantico over the decades. And 14th generation Virginian, but we lived here in Stafford for almost 30 years now.
Wow. And so, given that, and listen, obviously, it's interesting because most of the time when people run for Congress, oftentimes it's the economy and taxes and local issues. But it seems like, especially, and Abigail Spanberger, the person who's vacating that seat, she emphasized her national security creds as a CIA analyst. So it seems like national security is an important issue to the people who live in the 7th. And it looks like the Democrat will be Eugene Vindman, the brother of Alexander Vindman. And he often likes to flex that he was in the Army and that he in some way saved the country because of the impeachment process of Donald Trump over Ukraine. So, what are you hearing from voters? Why is national security important to them? And how are you different from the people you're running against?
So I am by far the most qualified or experienced national security person in this race. 28 years as a Marine Corps officer, intelligence officer. When I retired, I was on the Joint Staff as the Director of Regional Intelligence for the Chairman in the J5. And, I helped to put together the National Defense Strategy for China. And in addition to that, I managed a lot of the counter Russian and Chinese planning assessment of exercises that we did across Scandinavia and Europe and Africa in particular. So I'm very well versed in national security. When Mr. Vindman was on the NSC is around the same time I was on the Joint Staff, so I do know of him. Of the people running, and they're all great guys, I'm the best positioned to take on Vindman because we were working at the same level, and the other guys in this race, God love them, I think they're great guys, but they're at the tactical level, and so I just think I have an advantage in that regard.
It's interesting. If Vindman doesn't get it, another likely candidate that could get it is Elizabeth Guzman. She was made famous. Again, she's running in the Democrat primary. She was made famous a couple of years ago because she actually called for jailing parents who didn't immediately affirm their child's request to change genders. That was really shocking, I think, to a lot of Virginia parents. Tell me about how you address parent concerns when it comes to schools, the transgender issue, the curriculum, CRT, et cetera.
Absolutely nothing should get between a parent and their child. Parental rights are preeminent, and there's at no point should anybody try to interject themselves in between a parent and their child. I personally don't use the T word. I feel like that's language that's been created to pigeonhole you into acknowledging something that is not a reality, that you can transition your gender. So I try not to even use that word. I believe it's a fallacy, and I certainly don't want anybody else's ideologies pushed upon my children. Luckily, my children are a little older, so they're not really subject to that anymore. They have their beliefs, and they're sticking to them. But, yeah, so parental rights are preeminent.
Jon Myers is asking for your vote for the Republican nomination for Congress in Virginia 7. It's MyersForVirginia.com. That's Myers with a Y, for Virginia.com. Jon Myers, listen, this is a presidential election year, so a lot of this race is going to focus on the top of the ticket as well. We're told that in Virginia, and especially Northern Virginia, if you're too close to Donald Trump, then you're not going to be able to win. But at the same time, you need to be able to let Republicans know that if you're in the House, you're going to help the president with his agenda. So why don't you take the topic from there and tell us where you stand?
Sure. So, I knock on hundreds, if not thousands of doors since late summer, and it's even a lot of Republicans say that they don't like Donald Trump or they don't care for his personality. But the thing is, Donald Trump's policies are what's best for America. And, they are spot on, and they are exactly what we need. So you can fall out on either side of the Donald Trump personality argument. Some people love it. They think it's brash, it's bold, and it's what we need. Some people hate it, and they're turned off. I'm in the camp where I think he has the policies that we need. He has the leadership that we need. And, people are just going to have to vote on the policies that are best for America and sort of push all that other stuff aside. But, I'm definitely in his camp.
You happened to be on with us the day after he announced his position on abortion and whether there should be a federal ban or whether the state should decide. Lord knows this will come up if you were to be the nominee. I assure you, Mr. Vindman and me, if he gets the nominee, whoever's the Democrat nominee, they're going to be getting a ton of money from the pro-abortion crowd. So do you agree with the president on his position on that, or do you think there should be a federal ban? Where do you stand?
Well, it's a fact. I mean, it's now been pushed to the states, and he's just stating a fact. My personal position, I'm morally opposed to using abortion as birth control. I think it's reprehensible. But it is a state's issue, so that's just a fact. And I don't think that there should be a federal. I would consider that federal overreach. Getting into that, and it should be left to the states. But on a personal level, as I said, I find it using it as birth control is morally reprehensible.
Okay.
Mr. Myers, really interesting. I think I'm reading here that you were the Marine in charge of the response of Benghazi. I'm really interested in that perspective you have, and what do you think of what's going on in the Middle East right now? Just interested in your position on that.
Sure. So in terms of what's going on in the Middle East right now, for me, it's black and white. The good guys don't take hostages, and the good guys don't target children, and the good guys don't hide behind children. So, I fully support Israel 100%, and I'm anti-Hamas or any other terrorist organization. Now, in terms of Benghazi, yes, I was the Marine who had Marines on a ship off the coast of Africa. There's been different stories over the years and rumors, but I had a company reinforced of Marines from the 10th Marines on the USS Fort McHenry off the coast of Africa when the Benghazi situation happened, and I was ordered to go and create a plan to send Marines in to take reinforce the embassy and a branch plan to retake the consulate, but we were told to stand down by Hillary Clinton's State Department, which is one of the reasons that I'm doing what I'm doing right now, is to try to end that sort of stranglehold that career politicians who may not even be qualified have over our country, driving us into the ground.
Wow. Yeah, and one must be scratching their head thinking, I didn't know the State Department was in the chain of command there over at the Pentagon in terms of being able to determine things like that. But it's just Go ahead. When
you're I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but when you're not in a war, the State Department has control over what military forces go into and out of a country. So for training and those things, we had to work through the State Department to get permissions to do training. So because it was an attack and there was no state of war going on, they sort of determine who has authorization to come in and out.
And I appreciate you, because I think most Americans would think the second that our people are under fire and that our American citizens at an embassy or an annex or members of the military, even if they're retired and working as contractors, are in danger, the military jumps in and they do what they got to do. And clearly, when Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama were in charge, that's not at all what happened. Jon Myers, great talking with
Really
you.
great talking
I'd
to
love to talk with you again at some point. I hope we do, because you've got many stories to tell.
Yeah.
And I'm excited that you're telling your story, knocking on doors to the people of the 7th District. Thanks for joining us. Good luck with the primary.
Thank you so much, and good luck with your rubber face.
Oh my gosh!
You know
it's
what?
gonna
I don't know
stick.
why this is getting.
I was really liking him. I was really liking him.
It's a very common phrase, isn't it?
I forgive you, John.
Good morning.
You.
MyersForVirginia.com. It's 7:17. Let's get to Jamie Whitman, the Hideki.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Diamonds are formed by pressure, but not sold that way at Mervis. See the best quality at Mervis Diamond Importers.
Later this morning on the Chris Plank Show, climate change caused the moon to block the sun. The Democrats blamed Donald Trump. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
Actually, Chris is not far from the truth there. Not only did the ladies of The View go there, and we'll share it with you in a moment, but think about it for a minute. You're NBC News, again, a news outlet. You're in the business of news. And you're doing a segment on the eclipse, one of, 75 segments through the course of the day. So who do you speak with about it, right? Like yesterday, we had an astronaut, an actual astronaut who lived in space, like on a real rocket.
Right.
At NBC News, they got an actor who played Captain Kirk.
Good God.
On a pretend space show. He was on a set made of cardboard. And really bad flashing lights. But, of course, he was the expert to go to about the eclipse and the bigger meaning of the eclipse.
But he also made a climate connection that I think is important to point out here. I asked him about people that are concerned, shouldn't we be focused on tackling climate here on Earth rather than going out and exploring space, exploring more? And he said, we can do both. Here's some of our conversation.
Well, you can do both. I mean, it's... But you have to have a focus on the most important part, which is staying alive. I mean, what's the point of going into space? You can't come back, and you were overcome by the fumes. We're in a dire situation. We've got to do both. We've got to clean up the environment and our curiosity and our ambition.
That's just something to think about. We also talked about how this is going to be such an emotional, unifying experience as thousands of people all look up to the sky at the same time.
It is something to think about, isn't it?
Everyone acts like it's WALL-E, right? Like we're, that Pixar movie.
Yes,
where
good movie.
It's just like piles of garbage. We're just, the world has been destroyed. I mean, it's so ridiculous. And it's more of this alarmism. And I hate to criticize William Shatner because I know our producer loves him.
Yes, Heather
careful.
Hunter is. She has a bit of a crush on William Shatner. Always has. She likes
tread lightly.
No, he's well. Here, I would hate to criticize William Shatner if I actually took him seriously. But here's the thing: he's an actor.
Right.
Who cares?
Right.
And he's 90, and he wears a bad rug. And then
Let's not go too far. Let's not go too far.
He's kind of chunky
he looks
too.
Great. Stop. He looks great.
The criticism here is not against William Shatner.
Well,
the criticism,
it was for a few minutes ago.
No. I was just saying this is why we don't need here's what everything I just said about William Shatner should have been said by a producer at NBC News when somebody came up with a bright idea and saying, "Hey, we're doing a thing on space the solar eclipse, so let's talk to William Shatner as an expert." And then someone should have said, "He's an actor."
You don't have to call him chunky.
Chunky. Well, it's part of the thing that
or that he's 90. He's looking great for 90.
He looks fantastic. I hope
does.
I look that good when I'm 90. I won't need a rug, though, because I got a hair transplant from my friends at growyourhairback.com. It's 7:22.
Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:37 on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here. It's a busy Tuesday morning, but we're getting it done as much as we can for you. Coming up in our 8 o'clock hour, we're going to check in with James Swanson at 8:05. He's the author of Manhunt. They've made an Apple TV series about the hunt for John Wilkes Booth after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And then at 8:35, Mark Morgan, former Customs and Border Protection Commissioner. I'm Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
And this song can mean only one thing. You're either tuned into a classic hit station or a yacht rock playlist, or it's the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, joining us. Governor Youngkin, thanks for being here.
Hey, good morning, Larry. Good morning, Julie. Thanks for having me. I hope you're having a great day. And goodness, we just finished a sprint over 30 days dealing with over 1,000 bills and, of course, a giant package of amendments. I think to come up with a budget that Virginians will be very proud of.
Well, listen, you wanted $1 billion in tax cuts. The Democrats want $2.5 billion of tax increases. You call your amendments and what you've come up with here common ground. How do you find common ground when there's such a difference with regard to revenue? And Louise Lucas, the leader of the Senate and the Democrats, just said that you don't have any, I'm quoting now, you have zero support left in the Assembly, even among your own party. So, I mean, they don't seem like they want common ground, Governor Youngkin.
Well, the first place we have to start is in the world of facts, and that's what we presented yesterday. Listen, the Commonwealth is doing incredibly well. We're stronger financially than we have ever been, and that's really rested on the back of job growth and economic expansion here in Virginia that we've experienced the last 2 years. And we have 200,000 more people working today than we did when we started back in January 2022. That drives an enormous amount of receipts for state government. And that is how we should fund our government. And we can absolutely invest record amounts in education and in law enforcement and in behavioral health and making sure that we are meeting our obligations without any tax increases. I mean, Larry, let's be real. Over the course of the last 5 years, government revenue has increased 40%. Let me just be clear. That's $9 billion more revenue collected in 2024 than back in 2019 before the pandemic. And the biggest steps in that have been the last 2 years as jobs and economic expansion have driven financial reward for the state. We don't need to raise taxes. And in fact, as you know, we've worked to reduce tax burdens the last 2 years by $5 billion. And so we have plenty of money in the system. Therefore, we can have a record education budget. And it's something that I believe strongly in. That's why we have worked hard year after year to fully fund our education system, because it's the future for our kids. At the heart of it is teachers. And we have 3% pay increases each of the next 2 years for teachers. It brings our teachers not just to the national average, but through the national average, which is one of our big objectives, to recruit the very best teachers. So, you know, the bottom line is we can do this. We need to be great stewards of the taxpayer money that we collect, use it well, but we certainly don't need to increase taxes. And I think the budget that I've presented yesterday does exactly that. It meets a broad array of objectives, does not raise taxes. We're being great stewards for Virginians, and I'm hoping that our General Assembly can come with me and get this done.
Governor, you have been a champion of school choice and really a trailblazer on that issue in the state. I was so glad to see that your budget amendments restore funding for your lab schools. Can you tell us about those lab schools? Where will they be? And how many school divisions and students will they serve?
Well, so there's 21 lab schools in motion, and that is really exciting. They'll serve in excess of 5,000 students. They involve 60 school divisions across the Commonwealth and 25 institutions of higher learning. I mean, this is a Commonwealth-wide effort that everybody is embracing. And the most exciting part is each lab school represents the needs of that particular area. Just to give you a sense, of course, there's lots of STEM initiatives across the Commonwealth, but particularly coding, enrichment, and science and technology efforts in Northern Virginia. There is a health professions lab school in motion in Southwest Virginia because, of course, they have probably the biggest challenge in recruiting and growing healthcare professionals. There's a maritime industries lab school down in Newport News that's going to train the next generation of folks to build our most important naval assets and subs and aircraft carriers. And there's an application for a space lab school out on the Eastern Shore that will support the growth of Wallops Island and NASA. So these schools reflect the needs of the school divisions themselves. They have particular curriculum. Folks can literally apply, and there'll be a lottery system because we're seeing more kids apply than families apply. Because guess what? Parents want their children to go to schools that reflect their aspirations and their ambitions. One size fits all in education doesn't work. One of the other things I'm really proud of that's in the amendment package that has really been a really bipartisan effort is to reintroduce career and technical education into our school systems so that students don't necessarily feel like they have to go to college right away. And in fact, so many students want to go to work. So let's prepare them to do so. Listen, we have 200,000 more jobs of people working. We have the largest labor force in the history of Virginia. There's still lots of unmet need in the world of job opportunities. And let's train our kids in high school to go take those jobs immediately so the Commonwealth can continue to grow.
Governor Youngkin, and by the way, I don't want to, risk my ambassadorship to the wine country here, but you notably ignored my opportunity that I gave you to go after Louise Lucas. Now, let me try again, because she's not talking like someone who's trying to get things done for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And the fact that she did a victory lap over the arena in Alexandria that would have brought thousands of jobs and revenue to Virginians. She's acting like she's representing D.C. She was more excited that D.C. got to keep the Caps and the Wizards. I'd love for you to sort of comment on whether you think she's got the best interest of Virginians at heart here.
Well, Larry, let me just begin, and I've said this many times. I think the failure to go grab this amazing opportunity that the Wizards and the Caps presented to Virginia, not just Alexandria, is a massive mistake. And you can even see by the fact that we had negotiated an opportunity to bring them here, no new taxes, no upfront money from the Commonwealth, and a win-win where when they did well, the Commonwealth did well, generated $12 billion in economic activity. And, of course, D.C. had to pay them $515 million in taxpayer money up front to stay. And so, I continue to believe that this was just this is just a massive miss.
Yeah.
And so my job is to advocate for Virginia. And I think over the last 2 years, we have generated extraordinary opportunities for job expansion and capital investment and economic growth. There's over $70 billion of capital commitments that have been made over the last 2 years to build in Virginia. That's 2.5 times any 2-year period in the history of the Commonwealth. I mean, this is what we have to do. And my most important statement is we can't miss these things because we're not thinking about what's going to happen down the road. The reality, of course, is I think Virginia will really regret not having taken this up. I think the Commonwealth broadly would have benefited materially, and I just think it's a massive miss.
You realize you're way too nice for this job, right?
No.
You just perfect opportunity to just give us a zinger so we can play it over and over again, get you in trouble. Maybe he's disciplined. Maybe that's what
that
it
might
is.
be it. That
Wow.
might be it.
Either way, I don't know how you do it. Governor Youngkin, thanks for joining us, though. Good luck with the budget fight, and we'll be watching intently.
Hey, I really appreciate you. There's one other thing I might add, if I can, Larry, which is there's a lot of bills that are going to have to be taken up. Our team and I processed 1,046 bills over the last 30 days. We signed 777 of them. We vetoed 153 of them. And we've amended 116 to try to make them better. There's a lot of those bills that needed a lot of work, and so hopefully they'll take up my amendments. But this was also a big part of the last 30 days is to make sure that the legislative package that I ultimately sign or veto is one that can drive Virginia forward. And so, again, we need to pull people together around our amendment package in the bills and the budget. And I'm looking forward to the General Assembly doing a lot of good work here next week.
Well, and you've reminded me, I want to thank you because you vetoed 30 bills that were attacking people's right to self-defense and gun ownership in Virginia. They were completely unnecessary. And I know there was political pressure on you on that. So thank you for standing up for the Second Amendment rights of Virginians.
Yep. God bless you. Thanks for having me this morning.
Take care, Governor Youngkin. We have news about critters for you. Some call it critter news, which has been going on for over a decade now on this program. Critter news. It's going to be here long after I go off into the sunset. Our critter news now has it's all about the Georgetown mascot. The dog, it's a bulldog. It's great. It's iconic. Yeah. Right? It's wonderful. Everybody loves it. So obviously the left is trying to destroy him.
Of course.
They want the dog gone. And here's how local AB7's Scott Taylor reported it.
A lot of people here at the Georgetown University campus just love their mascot, an English bulldog named Jack.
I think bulldogs are really cute, so I just think he's a great energy just to have around campus. And I know when he plays or he shows up to basketball games and he rides a skateboard, people are really enthusiastic about that. Yeah. So I think he adds a lot of charm to this campus.
She's getting a college education. That one is. Oh God! I'm on her side though.
Rising intonation. Really annoying.
PETA wants to get rid of the dog. Obviously.
Is it PETA or is it also alumni?
There's some activists there, and
animals are sensitive, living, feeling beings, and they shouldn't be carted around from stadium to stadium like sporting equipment.
What?
No, I don't know. This dog.
That is the most pampered dog.
He lives the best life ever. You know, they have a team of students whose job it is to take care of that dog. They care for it all year long. It's revered. It's loved. It's a dog. Also, by the way, can I just remind everyone involved in this conversation? It's a dog.
It's a dog.
It's a dog.
Also, what? Okay, they act like he's in some sort of circus act.
Right. Or
he sits there.
He does do it. They have him do a few
they trot
tricks,
him out. Yeah.
At the Naval Academy, they have goats. They have Bill the goat.
I love it.
He's not quite as lovable, but it's a great-looking animal. He's kind of fierce
looking.
Doesn't
really convey intimidation or fear.
You fear that goat.
You do?
You don't want to mess with a goat.
Okay.
Oh, please, come on. University of Maryland has a freaking turtle. You're supposed to be scared of a turtle?
True.
Why don't they have a live turtle on the sidelines, scampering up and down there next to the...
because PETA said not to.
Right.
They're soft.
And U of M would listen to that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. 7:54.